Hey audience, welcome to the GenZ Show, brought to you by Generation Ziegler. I'm your host, James McLamb, and I'm joined this week by a very special co-host from Minnesota, Miss Maddie Smith. How are you doing, Maddie?
Well, I'm doing pretty good. We just hit 32 degrees here in Minnesota, so we're starting to see the freezing cold weather roll in, but it's all right. We enjoyed a nice 80-degree day a little over a week ago.
For those of you who are viewing and you may not understand, you may be watching it and it's already cold. It's just the third week of October when we're recording this. So here in North Carolina, I think we've gotten down to 49 is the lowest that we've gone to so far. So it's not that bad. So
Warm t-shirt weather.
Today, Maddie and I are joined by a good friend of mine that I've known for a very long time, Mark Timm. Now, Mark Timm would describe himself as a serial entrepreneur. He loves to create valued products and create businesses around those. But more importantly, through his journey, he's realized that he cannot do this on his own, and he needs mentors to help him to succeed. And so he's been very diligent about finding those mentors in his life. And he's written a book called Mentor the Millions, which you're going to hear about a lot. Him and Mr. Kevin Harrington, one of the original Sharks. And Mark is our guest today. He's also the president and CEO of Ziegler Family, which we'll put in the show notes as well. But I loved our conversation that we had with Mark. Maddie, what did you learn during our conversation today with Mark?
Well, Mark gave a really great image, which is easy for all of us to see when we talked about a brick wall and how mentorship is like getting all of those different bricks and figuring out how to put them together and build the wall. And I thought that was extremely relevant, a very simple and clear image for all of us to take away. And I'm sure for everyone who is viewing, as you continue to watch the video, you'll get a chance to kind of dive deeper into that analogy and what all he means from that image.
Folks, you're really going to enjoy this, and you're going to want to click on some of the notes that we have put down in the show notes about where to get the book Mentor the Millions and how to take advantage of a special offer that Mark's going to talk about at the end of the call, how to be personally mentored by him and Mr. Kevin Harrington. So let's go straight to our call with Mr. Mark Timm. Hey, Mark, welcome to the GenZ Show. How are you doing today?
Man, I'm fantastic. I'm super excited to be hanging out with you guys today and just ready to share and just impart whatever wisdom I can to the Gen Z world, because they are not just my future, but they're my kids' future. And I actually have kids that are right in that Gen Z, as you well know. So near and dear to my heart to equip them to lead this coming world that we're living in.
I want to thank you too for your support of Generation Ziegler over the years, both as supporting it through your organizations and your companies, but also supporting it by putting your money, where your mouth is. You've sent your two of your sons have come through some of our programs as well, with Marcus being in our very first class. So I want to thank you for that as well. Our audience may not know who you are. Some of them may not be familiar with you. Introduce yourself to our audience here.
Sure. So, well, again, my name is Mark Timm. I am a serial entrepreneur. I was a farm boy from Fillmore, Indiana, who somehow ended up becoming an entrepreneur. And, we were talking about Iwo Jima a little bit ago, and I can't help but think of the Iwo Jima Memorial in Washington, D.C., because the last job I had before becoming an entrepreneur was for USA Today. And USA Today, the two Connect towers sat right on the hill where the Iwo Jima Memorial is there. But I worked for USA Today. I worked for Kellogg's. I even worked for George Bush Sr. For a little while in the White House before becoming an entrepreneur. And I just found that entrepreneurial life was for me. I wanted the freedom and flexibility to take my ideas and passions and put them in place and bring product to the world. And I did that. But I also found that there was something I enjoyed even more than that, and that was selling those companies. So I've started 15 companies, but I've sold 7 of them. One company I sold, and then 8 years later bought it back, and then 2 years after that sold it again. So there's nothing more joyous as an entrepreneur than creating something of value that someone is willing to pay you for that. And so I love that. But then I got to the point where I had 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls, and I figured out that the real business that I needed to be in, the most valuable business that I will ever own, ever operate, ever even be a part of, was the one I was coming home to, not the one I was going to every day. And so it was at that point that I became CEO of the most valuable business in the world, which happens to be Timm's, which happens to be my family. So that's kind of my journey. And by the way, James and I and Maddie, we have something in common, and that was I was a lot of my gifts and abilities. And my first mentor, by the way, came from my time in the FFA, where I served as the national FFA president. And you mentioned, James, when we were talking offline, that 30 years ago, I ran for national office. Well, it was actually 30, so it was 29 years ago that I met a man by the name of Zig Ziglar on stage at national convention, and he agreed to mentor me and be my first real official mentor. So that's kind of my origin story. And yes, it was pretty incredible to have Zig as a mentor, to stay in his home, to eat dinner with him and his wife. And we can unpack some of the lessons that that I learned from that whole experience if you'd like to. But that's kind of where I came from, and why I'm so passionate about sharing anything I can with Gen Z today.
Now, Mark, you recently have authored a book. Is this your first book that you've authored?
That's my first book. So Mentor to Millions right here. Yeah.
There you go. I got it as well.
All right.
I didn't get a free copy, though. I had to pay for it. So I just
that's so you can leave a review. If you haven't left a review, man, I need your help.
I think I did on
okay.
on Amazon. I think I did. If not, I promise that I will. So, and it's Mentor to Millions, and you co-authored that with Mr. Kevin Harrington. So guide us through how that book came to fruition and why you think this topic of mentorship is something that a young generation needs to know about, that they need to understand.
Well, first off, the title, Mentor to Millions, I want to get something clear right up front. Millions is not money. Millions is impact. And so if you've got a product, a purpose, or a passion that the world needs, the best and fastest way to get it to the world is through mentorship. And, you know, I co-authored it with Kevin Harrington. He was the original shark from Shark Tank. He did about 175 segments. If you watch the first 3 seasons, you'll see him on there. And so Kevin, I traveled with him a lot. We became business partners. He became my mentor. And everywhere we'd go, hundreds of people would come up to him and say, Kevin, can I just have 5 minutes? Can I just ask you one question? If I could just ask you one question, I know it would change my life. And he would be gracious enough to take a lot of these questions. And in the end, they were all asking the same thing. What's the one thing I need to do? What's the one change I need to make? What's the one thing that I can do to grow a business, start a business, become more successful, make more money? It was always down to that one thing. And so we started having a lot of conversations. And what we started talking about is that, by the way, his mentor also was Zig Ziglar. When he was a young man, before he started the infomercials, he learned about selling techniques from Zig. And so what we figured out is that super successful people, I'm talking the Steve Jobs of the world, the Bill Gates of the world, you know, the Richard Bransons of the world, people that we look up, the Warren Buffetts of the world, they all have one thing in common. They all had mentors in their lives when they were young. When they were just figuring out what their unique genius was in the world, a mentor came along, poured wisdom into their life, and helped them accelerate that genius into the world. And so the one thing that Kevin would ultimately share is that you've got to surround yourself with people that can help you. You've got to surround yourself with mentors. And we figured out that that is the real secret to success, is having other people in your life that believe in you, that are willing to share their wisdom and expertise with you. And then we figured out that that was really our secret to success. If it wasn't for Zig in my life, or Zig in his life, or his father was his first mentor, and all the different mentors that I've had, that we wanted to tell the world that, and by the way, statistically, you can look this up on Google, because everything on Google is factual. And so if you look it up, you'll see that less than half of the world says they even have a mentor in their life. So that means you have the haves and the have-nots. The haves have mentors, the have-nots do not. The haves are a much smaller group, and that's sad. That's really not the way we should be. We need mentors in our life. We need people that we can raise our hand and that will reach down and help us achieve our greatness, because I believe everybody was put on this earth to achieve something spectacular. But what a shame if that moment finds that person unprepared or unqualified for what could have been their finest hour. And how do you make sure you're prepared or qualified? Have mentors in your life. Be talking about these kinds of things. Be learning from other people's mistakes in your life. So we wrote the book because we want people to not have to struggle and fail as much as they are. We want people to surround themselves with mentors that will help them. And we want that haves and have-nots to switch. We want more people to have mentors than don't. And we believe that that message has to get out there. Millions, we want 1 million people to have this book. We know if 1 million people read this book, that their product, purpose, or passion would get to the world. And that's what we're about.
What does mentorship look like? I mean, what is it? A formal relationship, informal relationship? You know, if I'm a young person and you're saying mentorship to me, I don't know what that means.
All right. So let me do something better than just explain it, because hopefully the people will have a chance to see this video. And you guys see what I'm sitting in front of. What is that?
Brick wall.
It's a brick wall. So that brick wall is the word picture for the answer to the question. So how this works is a mentor, okay? And how you get a mentor is you've got to have the courage and the vulnerability to raise your hand and say, I'm ready. Not I need or I want. I need, I want, that's selfish. That's all about you. I'm ready means you're coachable and you're teachable. So if you can look yourself in the mirror and say, I'm ready to be mentored, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So you raise your hand and say, I'm ready. All right, so what are you ready for? What a mentor does is a mentor gives you these bricks, okay? A mentor has learned the hard way. They've made mistakes. They've failed in their life. And out of that failure is these nuggets of wisdom that are represented by bricks. They're solid. They're strong. They're tested. A lot of times they're tested through failure, by the way, not just success. But they are meaningful and they matter and they're real, okay? So your job as a mentee is you have only one job. Only one job as a mentee, and that is to be the mentor's best student. Simple as that. So the mentor's job is to give you the bricks of wisdom. Your job as a mentee is to collect those bricks by being their best student. Now, here's the catch. If you take all those bricks behind me and you stack them up, even a little kid can run through that brick wall. Why? Because a stack of bricks by itself is just a stack of bricks. It doesn't have the strength that that wall has. Where's that strength come from? It's the concrete. It's the mortar that holds those bricks together, that turns it into this strong wall that we can build a house on or build a life on. And so where does that come from? So you first get the right mentor. You second become their best student and collect the bricks. The third, and this is the most important, is once you've learned from a mentor, once you've received that wisdom, you must teach it to someone else. Because if you don't teach it to someone else, it's just a stack of bricks. It's just sitting around as a stack of bricks. It does no good for you. But if you will take that learning and teach it to someone else, now you've got a brick wall. Now you have a foundation that you've built with those bricks that you can build a business on. You can build a marriage on. You can build a life on. You can build relationships on. And so that is the journey of a mentor-mentee relationship. Find the right mentor, become their best student, and then take that wisdom and teach others. And you will absolutely be on your way to impacting millions of people on this planet.
Wow.
Mr. Timm, I just have to say I'm in a construction class right now and we're learning about building brick walls. And so it's really resonating with me right now.
Well, I think, I'm glad that you shared that because, brick, by the way, sometimes when I'm doing interviews, people think this is a virtual background. Like they don't think it's real. Okay. But it's real. And I love brick because of what it symbolizes. It's strong, it's strength, And so, so that's why I share that analogy, and I know you're on a journey right now, Maddie, and you have to have had some people pouring into your life to get to this point.
Absolutely. And that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I got in terms of mentorship and mentoring others is the rule of thirds. So you spend a third of your time with someone who will mentor you and who can invest in you. Spend a third of time with people who you can grow with, so your peers, and then a third of your time with people who you can reinvest into as well. So I'm kind of curious your take on that rule of thirds and maybe how that changes and how that looks versus maybe a point in life where you're in a position that I am compared to where you are in life.
Yeah, number one, I love the thirds. That's brilliant in terms of like it gives me a great picture, and I think it's perfect for where you're at. I'm going to tell you that that it does evolve. Those percentages will evolve a little bit as you evolve in life. I'm at a stage now where I'm spending far more than a third of my time mentoring others. And so, in fact, I've got a company right now that is being so blessed. Like it is just being so blessed. And I believe it's being blessed because we're supposed to do something significant in the world. The name of the company is Elevate One, and it's about elevating brands, but it's really about elevating the real one, the one and only. And it's about elevating those that can't elevate themselves. And so, so the fact is that I'm looking at this blessing and saying, okay, you know what I need to do? I'm going to spend, and I just got done sharing this vision with the team. So this is fresh. I said in 2021, my job as CEO is I'm going to mentor every one of my staff. I'm going to mentor them to make sure that they become the best versions of themselves inside of Elevate One. And I'm going to mentor them to make sure that they become the best versions of themselves at home, because I want them to win at home, not just win when they're working for Elevate One. And why am I going to do that? Why am I going to dedicate a whole year to mentoring my staff? Because in 2022, they are going to help me help those that can't elevate themselves. So instead of me jumping ahead and saying, hey guys, we're being blessed in this company, would you go help me elevate a bunch of people you don't know? No, I'm going to invest an entire year mentoring them so that they become the best versions of their self, so that they then can help me elevate those that can't elevate themselves. And that's where I'm at in life. So I love the third, a third, a third. I think it's perfect for Gen Z. I think it's probably perfect for a while, until you really get your own family, because I also believe that while you have children at home, there's no, some people call it parenting. I just call it advanced mentorship. Like if you get the job of parenting done right, you get to mentor them for the rest of their life. Like the coolest thing is that when my kids were little, and I can say this now, and James knows some of my kids. So all my kids have left the house except for one. She's a senior. So when they were little, I remember all of them at some point putting their hand in mine, and I was their world. Like my heart just melted, like I was their world. And, and they knew I loved them, and it was a beautiful thing. But then at some point they dropped my hand, and they were too cool for school. Like they're not going to get caught holding dad's hand. No way. Right. And so, and I wondered, was that over? Was that period gone for good? But if you get this right, if you develop a relationship with your kids and your family, and you do it right, there's a second time, and this is right before they leave your home, where they literally will grab your hand for a second time, and they will say, I choose you. I pick you to teach me and mentor me to become the young adult, to teach me to become a college student, a coworker, maybe even a husband or a spouse someday, a mom or a dad. But when they take your hand the second time, it's for the rest of your life. Like you've won the ultimate, prize in life. And that is you get to be their mentor for the rest of their life. And so, so there's different journeys that we go on. And so right now I love the journey that you're on. I love the third, a third, a third. But as our life changes, some of those percentages will change a little bit, and we may be spending more time mentoring our family. And then where I'm at is that my family is now, all leaving and going out into the world. And so I've got more margin to mentor my staff and my team. And so I'm transitioning from my family to my business. And then ultimately I want to transition to an external, universe that can't elevate themselves and needs the kind of wisdom that I have to offer. So I believe it's a journey. But what I believe is that you should always have mentors in your life, and you should always be giving and sharing that wisdom to other people. And if you'll have that flow in your life, you will grow immensely from it, and you will have a massive impact on the world.
So how are they going to, I'm sorry, Maddie, but how are they going to identify these potential mentors?
I have a lot of people ask me and say, hey, I don't have an ecosystem. That's easy for you, Mark, easy for you, James, easy for you, Maddie, but not me. I have to tell you, James, we know somebody, his name is Bob Bodine, and he says, you already know everybody you need to know to accomplish everything you were put on this earth to accomplish. I believe that. I think Bob is right. He has a great book out that really unpacks this. And so if Bob is right, and I believe it, and I think you do too, James, then that means, Maddie, you already know everybody you need to know to accomplish everything you need to accomplish in life. That should take some pressure off. The question is not, how do we identify them? The question is, are you willing to be vulnerable and courageous enough to say, I'm ready, and reach out to them? Now, I emphasize vulnerable and courageous enough because often the mentor that was meant to be passes by us because we lack the courage to step up and say, I'm ready to be mentored. Or we lack the vulnerability to be honest and say, I'm ready to be mentored. But if you will combine courageous and vulnerability, I guarantee you will find the right mentor. Now, what kind of mentor should you find? Definitely, I mean, you're going to laugh at this, but find someone who's failed a lot. Because anybody who hasn't failed is probably not going to be a good mentor, because number one, and you may not see this coming. The reason I want them to have failed a lot is because I want to make sure they'll let you fail. Like the worst kind of mentor is someone who doesn't let you fail, because they rob you of the real learning in life. We learn more through failure. What is it? Brene Brown says you learn more in 10 minutes of agony than 10 years of bliss. And there's so much truth to that. So we're supposed to fail, but we're supposed to learn from those failures. Our mentor Zig Ziglar used to say, nobody drowns from falling in water. They drown from staying in the water. That's why they drown. And so, falling in water is just part of life. Staying there is where the mistake is. And so, so the bottom line is that you can find mentors. And if you don't believe it, if you've got social media profiles and you have the courage and vulnerability to say, okay, hey, my name is Maddie, and I want to learn how to start a business. Would you help me? And you see, that's like 10 words. 10 words. So if Maddie is afraid to start her own business and she goes on social media tonight and says, hey, my name is Maddie, I want help learning how to start a business. Will you help me? I guarantee you people will respond. And here's the cool thing. It may not be the person that's following you that is going to help you. It's the person that's following you that knows the person who's going to help you. Okay? So it's not that your inner circle has all the wisdom and knowledge. It's that your inner circle loves you and cares about you and is going to help you connect to that wisdom and knowledge. The question is, can you be vulnerable enough and courageous enough to raise your hand and put yourself out there? So that's the answer to the question, James, is courage and vulnerability, not capacity or community.
So this is a little off topic, but I was scrolling through Instagram when I came across a meme, and when I saw this meme, that was the moment that I decided to run for national office. Now hear me out. I saw this meme, and there was a cookie cutter of a horse. That was the first box. And the second box was a very distorted horse cookie. And then the third box was just a really fat horse photoshopped after the silhouette of the cookie. And for me, I saw this meme and I realized that being a cookie cutter and following after a cookie cutter does not serve others. So being perfect does not serve others. And I'm curious, I think a lot of times when we look up to someone, we kind of try to copy them and fill that mold. So what's the difference? Where do we draw that line between completely filling a mold that someone else has already created to taking bits and pieces and making them our own from mentorship?
Well, first and foremost, I love that analogy, and I can picture the meme just by the way you described it, and it's beautiful. Yeah, the biggest mistake we can make is to try to become someone else. The advice that I gave you in running for national office was very simply, I had like 30 seconds to give you advice, and I gave you this advice, and that is, my guess is that you're pretty good at being Maddie Smith. And so if you truly show the committee the real Maddie Smith, then you've given yourself an extraordinarily good shot to become a national officer. Because believe it or not, it's easy to fake it. It's hard to be real and raw. And oftentimes when we try to become someone we're not, we're faking it. When we try to emulate someone to the point of imitation, we're faking it. My hope is that all of you would pick a mentor that wouldn't allow you to do that, would pick a mentor that would call you out if you were not being the best version of yourself. I tell people when they're asking me about who they should choose as a mentor, I say failure, but then the other thing I say is make sure your mentor knows that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you need a mentor that listens, someone that really wants to get to know you and wants to understand your unique ability and what makes you special and why God decided to put you on this earth. And if you choose someone like that, they won't let you imitate them. They won't let you become anybody but the best version of yourself. And so, so it is a slippery slope for us to try to imitate someone else that we look up to and become them. But hopefully if they're the right kind of mentor, they won't allow it. They'll make sure that you learn from their mistakes and you learn from their wisdom, but that that you have your own mold when it comes to your life and your contribution that you're going to make. And so and also from the mentee perspective, when I say be their best student, that means implement their wisdom in your own life. Don't replicate them, but take that wisdom and act on it in your own life, and then come back to them with the learning that you've had in your life. You've got to be the best you that the world has ever seen. And if you are, then again, look out world, because good things are going to happen. It's when we try to become someone else that we diminish our real impact, because we're diverting from the genius of our creator that put us on the earth to begin with. He made you perfect. He made you absolutely perfect to be the best version of yourself. The question is, are you willing to be who you were put on this earth to be? And that's not easy, but that is the journey that we're on. And by the way, it's taken me almost, I'm almost to the halfway point. I'm not quite as old, as some people on this call, but I, but I'm getting there. And so, but it's taken me this long in my life to really figure out, the best version of myself. And I'm slotting into this. The book really helped me, writing all of this down really helped me to understand what am I supposed to accomplish? What legacy am I supposed to leave? And it's really taking shape, but it's taken me 49 years to figure that out. And that's okay. That's part of the journey.
This
This great on
entire
the beard I'm seeing there for our friends. So.
this
Same here.
I've been thinking about, we've talked about vulnerability a lot, and I think that's a huge thing as a mentor and as a mentee, because as a mentor, we're showing others that we're not perfect too. And this really makes me think of one of my favorite songs. It's by Andy Grammer. It's called The Good Parts. And if you haven't heard it, I would recommend listening to it. He in the song he really talks about like, let's get past the small talk. Let's talk about where it hurts, all of your failures, like the sides of you that you don't really want to show. And I think that really resonates true in terms of being both a mentee and being open and willing to grow, as well as being a mentor and being able to show your imperfections to those who you're trying to invest in and trying to guide and mold.
Well, I can tell you that my daughter, my youngest daughter, who's still at home, she communicates with me a lot through music. And so I'm going to definitely listen to the good parts, and I'm going to share that song with her because she's been sharing a lot of songs lately. I don't know if you've heard of Thomas Rhett, but she loves Thomas Rhett, and so she's been introducing me to his music and some of his songs, and so music is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's because it stimulates multiple of our senses, right? So it's not just it's our auditory, it's sound, it's vibration. There's just so much about it that's beautiful. So number one, I'll be checking out that song, and number two, I love the message that you're sharing there, because we all have good parts, but a lot of times those good parts are forged through pain. And that's why I use the analogy of the brick. Bricks are basically, since you're in a construction class, we'll go back to the bricks. For those that don't know, bricks are basically just mud. In their rawest form, they are sloppy, messy, just nothing. Like, they're good. It's a unforged brick is good for nothing. It's good for nothing except for making a mess. Yet when it gets forged and it becomes this hard substance that we can build beautiful structures out of, that's the that's the beauty of this whole life that we live in, is that our messiness, some of what we see as messiness can become the bricks of our life that we build our life on. And I contend that without the messes in our life, we wouldn't be who we are. And so we have to embrace them. And shoot, I played a vital role in James's life. I contributed greatly to his overall, and thank you, Maddie, for pointing that out before we got on the call. The contribution that I made, to James is immense, and it's, but one could look at it as messy, and someone else could look at it as one of the pillars, of life. And so, and I'm giving James a hard time because James has accomplished a lot in his life, and he, he's got a beautiful family, but none of us are immune to the messiness of this world and the messiness of life. And so that's kind of what I get from your message that you shared. And the good parts is that we all have beautiful, extraordinary parts, but oftentimes, and this is the other piece too that I want everybody to hear, a lot of times when we look in the mirror, we see the mess. And when others look in the mirror, they see the brick and the strength and the strong thing. And so I often say to my kids, if I could give you one gift, it would be for you to see yourself as the world sees you. If you could see yourself through my eyes for even 5 minutes, you would realize that you have been built to contribute and to accomplish amazing things. And I wish we could give people that gift to see them the way we see them. And sometimes we have to just say it. We have to be courageous enough to just put words to what we see. But I've been guilty of it in my life too, looking in the mirror and seeing the mess instead of looking in the mirror and seeing what that mess has become and seeing it as the good parts. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm reading this book. I don't see my name in the acknowledgments. And now that I think about it, this book would not have happened if it wasn't for me. So let's trace it back. If I hadn't called you and met with you and Tom in Indianapolis, you would have never met Kevin. So why am I not in the acknowledgement? I don't understand. You need to rewrite it. So there's no site there.
In all fairness, I am going to publicly, in front of everybody listening here, and say that I know I owe all of my success in life to James McLamb.
That's very true.
He is 100%. I will talk to Hay House and see if we can't make an update to the next edition of this book. And
they should pull them off the shelves right now. They don't need to wait for that.
No, in all fairness, that's the beauty of life. You know, James and I met over 30 years ago.
31 years ago.
And 31 years ago, and here we are today. And one of the things that really bonds us is not just FFA, but it's Zig Ziglar. And so, you know, when James, when we sat down and Kevin and I, you know, when we made the list of who should write the foreword to this book, there was only one person on the book.
I wasn't available.
You weren't available, and it was Tom Ziegler.
Oh.
And so because the legacy of that mutual mentorship passed on to his kids, and obviously you're part of that legacy. I mean, to your own admission, all kidding aside, you're absolutely correct. You know, if it had not been for you reaching out to me and then ultimately, you know, making the connection to Tom, and then Tom, you know, making the connection to Kevin, you know, that is the ripple effect, by the way. If you don't appreciate this, I mean, just think about this for a second, is the Zig has been gone from this earth for 7 years now, I think. And yet the ripple effect of the mentorship that he provided to so many people is living on today. Hundreds of millions of people's lives are changing every day because of the way he chose to live his life, because of the mentorship that he provided to many people. And by the way, there was no Facebook, Instagram, there was no LinkedIn, there was no social media of any kind when Zig was doing this. He was impacting hundreds of millions of people, one stage, one person at a time. And that ripple effect continues even today. So, you know, James and I are giving each other a hard time because we've been friends for a long time. And, you know, and we've been friends for more years than most of the people listening to this podcast have been alive. And, you know, and so, you know, I want to make sure that everybody knows that James is older than me. And so I gotta frame, you know, age in an appropriate way.
Funny you say it. My wife last night, when I told her that, you know, you were coming up on your 30th anniversary and stuff, she was like, "He's younger than you? I thought he was older than you." I was like, "No, he's just a little bit younger."
Anyway, we have something so deeply, you know, and richly in common. Not just FFA, but Zig Ziglar and our faith and our family and the priority that we give, that, you know, James, I could not talk to James for a year and I could run into him and we'd have to pull each other apart because of everything we'd have to share, because we've just got this richly embedded learning that came through mentors and teachers at the right times of our life. And that's the way it works. And so, you know, so when we talk about impacting millions, it starts by one person at a time. I mean, you start with one mentor, and then you become a mentor. So you get a mentor, and then you become a mentor. And then that person that you mentor it has you as a mentor, and then they become a mentor. And it ripples, and the ripple effect goes on for your entire life on this earth and well beyond your life on this earth if you do it right. So I truly believe that every single person can impact millions of people during their lifetime, but they need other people to help them. So they need mentors, and they need to mentor other people. It's just, that's the book. I mean, the book Mentor to Millions, it's got a great amount of stories of business and family and failures and success. But in the end, when you close the last page of this book, what we most want you to say is, I need more mentors in my life, and I need to be a mentor to more people in my life. If you say that, then we've accomplished everything we wanted to accomplish with this book.
Well, Mark, I believe there's great value that the viewers of this, the young people that watch this, are going to glean from mentoring, but I actually believe they need to know more. So how can they connect with you to learn a little bit more about Mentor the Millions, and maybe even, you know, glean some more information from it? So how can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, obviously, I'd love for anybody and everybody to go out and get Mentor to Millions. It's available wherever books are made available. Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's available everywhere. And so that's first and foremost, because that'll give you a real picture into more of my journey and my priorities in life, because it's a very story-oriented narrative kind of journey that the book goes on. It's not a how-to book. But you can also go to Mark Timm. That's with 2Ms.com. And that's where I share more about my family. You meet my family there. You can, learn more about me. And there's a whole lot more that we'll be sharing on marktimm.com from just a content perspective. And so you can engage there and even reach out to me from there. But I'm going to do something here. And that is, when Kevin and I wrote the book, anyone who bought the book before it was released, we gave them 30 days of mentorship from Kevin and I. And that's not available now. That ended when we launched the book about 3 weeks ago. But because of kind of who we're talking to and because of where you're at in life, anyone who goes to Kevin Mentor is one word, and all you do is show us that you got the book. It can be a Kindle version, it can be book, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's Amazon's got it on sale for $18, or the Kindle's like 12. And if you'll go there and just put in the receipt number, we'll give you access to the 30 days of mentorship. So if you want to be mentored by an original shark from Shark Tank, or you want to learn more about my journey as an entrepreneur and family, go to kevinmentor.com, put in your information that you got the book, and we'll go ahead and extend that out, and you can have the 30 days of mentorship with Kevin and I.
Well, that is awesome. And for our audience, I'm going to put all the things that he just said, where to reach him, where to reach them to get the 30-day membership. That's all going to be in the show notes. So if you'll just look down in YouTube and hit the notes, you'll see that as well. Mark, thank you, friend, for joining us. It's always, you've always been very supportive of what we've done, and it really means a lot. I think the success that we had, great deal of that is due to the fact that you have been willing to stand alongside of us and promote us. And I really do thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. I believe in what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I sent my boys, through your program, and I can tell you that their lives were forever changed because they went through Generation Ziegler. And I hope that you continue doing what you're doing, because it is making a difference. And if there's more that I can do, you know where to reach me. Happy to continue to support you guys. And Maddie, because you're here with me and you've been so eloquent in sharing here, I wish you the very best in your journeys. And if there's anything I can do to help or support you, James can give you my contact information. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Timm. I really appreciate this conversation today.
You bet. I do too.
And thank you guys for viewing, and please subscribe to our channel so you can get more updates weekly. Every Tuesday, we release these at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you guys, and goodbye.